Hello. Back for day 8, catching up here. So I'm just going to read what today's is. I've always had a calling to move out west, somewhere like Arizona or New Mexico, and I'm just not sure how I will even be able to make that transition, or if it's still the best thing for me. I've prayed about it, and I would have support, and I've prayed about it that I would have support, etc. Now I have my cat Ivy with severe trauma herself, so that seems an added challenge. Thanks for doing these 21 days. You're so welcome. So, well, you know, I live in New Mexico, and we used to have a place over in Arizona. We sold a couple years ago, so I've spent a lot of time in both locations. I mean, my preference is for sure New Mexico. And it's interesting. I just watched this thing on YouTube, and they did a study, and they were actually saying, and sorry for anyone that lives in Phoenix, that Phoenix, Arizona, by 2050 is going to be one of the worst places to live. You know, whether you believe that or not, but they did it really like scientifically, and they talked about drought and heat, you know, global warming, whether you believe in that or not, and just job availability and all that. And New Mexico, I always joke, we're definitely a very different state here. It's very unique. In some ways, yeah, we just march to the beat of a different drummer, and I love that about it. And I like there's ways it's very regulated here, and ways it's far less regulated. I'm starting to see a lot of the regulation happening, say even with the wild horses. But so here's a couple thoughts off the topic. I think the start would be to come and visit, you know, the places if you haven't done that already. And just go get it, like when you take a vacation. Go to Arizona. Go to New Mexico. I mean, I can most certainly help you with both places to go see and check out. And that would be the start, is because to just go and make the move without having been there, and maybe you have, is hard. I ended up moving to New Mexico because I came out and visited my cousin years ago who had moved out here from Florida. And what spurred me to come see her is my boss at the time when I was living in Chicago. He came back from a ski vacation. He goes, I went to Taos, New Mexico, man. That place is super freaking cool. Like, he's like, New Mexico is so cool. And what I find is people either love New Mexico or they hate it. It's a very polarizing place. People are like, it's too brown here or whatever. And I personally find it beautiful. I find the landscape magical. I love the vast views. It's the same in Arizona as far as vast views. But the terrain is different and similar in both places. So that's just pragmatic stuff. But let's tap. And but the other thing I'll say, and I'll include this in the tapping, is when you feel called forward to do something and yet you're not doing it yet, what can happen is that we judge ourselves for it, of course, and make ourselves wrong. That, you know, I got this calling, but I'm not acting on it. It's a big freaking deal to uproot your life and uproot what you know and move across the country. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. I did it when I was 31, and I'm going to be 61 in June. So I did it 30 years ago, and I did it with, at the time, my husband at the time. And I knew someone out here, and I had my cousin out here, but I still moved out here in a big way by myself, even a year before my husband at the time did. So I was figuring it out, but I'm an outdoors person and I love it. So there was so much about it that fit. But that's just my monologue, is maybe if you can, take a vacation. And if you have been out here before, take another vacation. Go to both places and just check it out. Like, not like putting pressure on yourself, like, oh my God, I've got to make this move, but really go check it out and see, like, how's it feel here? Because I do believe living in a place is very different ultimately than, say, sometimes when we're on vacation, but you still, get the idea of like, I'm going out to look at that. So that's my monologue, and let's tap. Karate chop. Even though I've always had this calling to move out west, like Arizona or New Mexico, but I have no idea how I would even be able to make that transition. I choose to honor this truth right now. Even though I've had this calling to move out west, but is it still the best thing for me? I choose to honor my questions now. Even though I have this calling to move out west, I've prayed about it, that I'd get the support I need. And what if I could start to see this differently, even just a little bit now? And go to the eyebrow. I have this calling. This calling that I'm not acting on. And what if that's okay? Maybe I'm beating myself up a bit, using procrastination to do it. Maybe I'm telling myself a story. Like, I lack the confidence. I don't have what it takes. That's too big of a move. But what if, as I catch the judgment in the act, I can tap through that and soften that judgment so that I can tune in and see what really comes. And what if it's possible? There really is such a thing as divine timing and divine order. And what if I'm not moving right now, it's just not the right time? And what if I'm meant to move out west, the way will be shown when the timing's right. But what if for now, I'm meant to be where I'm at? For whatever reason. And what if that reason will make sense to me down the road? So what if for now, I can just work on the self-judgment and remind myself, if I haven't moved yet, I'm not meant to. And what if things line up for me that show me the way to move, that make it so much easier for me? And what if the place to start is in going within and helping to free myself from any punitive thoughts I might have about not moving? And what if over time, that makes all the difference? And then take a breath. So hope you found that helpful. And I always tell stories, one last story. So, and many of you that have been around my world for a while now, I got the idea for the first book that I wrote, Forbidden Emotions, The Key to Healing. I got it 10 years before the book was ever written. And I had read that book, Big Magic, by Elizabeth Gilbert. You know, she says in there, you know, ideas come and they go. And if you don't act on them, they're going to go to someone else. And I remember reading that and I thought, no, that doesn't have to be true. That's like a scarcity mentality, which is amazing that I'm arguing with Elizabeth Gilbert. But I'm like, that is totally a scarcity mentality. If I have a thought and I don't act on it, somebody else is going to take it. Well, what if someone else does it differently than me? What if it's just not the right time for me? And I will do this in the right time and the right way for me. And what if whatever this idea is for me is different than for someone else? Because if I had believed that, I would have started a research. How many people have written books about like emotions? Like there's hundreds of thousands, probably millions of them. And I was like, there's many people that many books contain such similar topics, but that writer is the unique person they are, and they write it from their perspective. And there's people out there, you know, that need that perspective. So that's always stuck in my head, and it's always helped me when I'm like, oh, you know, it's not happening yet. And it's like, it's just not the right time. And it doesn't mean that's easy to go, oh, it's just not the right time, because some days that's easier than others. But the journey to me is to begin with the, if you're judging yourself, like, well, I'm not moving and I'm just stuck in the question. Well, you're meant to be stuck in the question now. What if you're meant to be stuck in the question now? Because it's just not the right time yet. And if the timing is right, you know, out of no how and no way, a way will be made. So hope you found this helpful, and then we'll see you back here tomorrow for day 9. Bye-bye.